and welcome to Everyday Stoicism. What exactly is Stoicism? And perhaps just as importantly, what is it not? Whether you've heard the term thrown around in conversation, seen quotes attributed to Marcus Aurelius on social media, or you're simply curious about how ancient philosophy might help you navigate modern challenges, you're in the right place. By the end of today's episode, you'll understand the core principles of Stoicism, how it differs from the common misconception of being emotionless, and how this practical philosophy can be applied to your daily life. Let's start with the basics. Stoicism is a school of philosophy that originated in Athens, Greece, around 300 BCE, with a philosopher named Zeno of Citium. Despite being over 2,000 years old, its principles remain remarkably relevant today. At its core, Stoicism is a philosophy of personal ethics informed by its system of logic and views on the natural world. It teaches that virtue, meaning wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, is the only true good. External things like wealth, health, and reputation, while preferred, are ultimately indifferent to our happiness and character. The most well-known Stoics include Seneca, a Roman statesman and playwright; Epictetus, a former slave who became a respected teacher; and Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome, who wrote his private philosophical reflections in what we now call Meditations. But what did these thinkers actually teach? Let me break down the three fundamental principles of Stoicism. First, the dichotomy of control. The Stoics believed that some things are within our control and others are not. In the words of Epictetus, some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and in a word, whatever is of our own doing. Not within our power are our body, our property, reputation, office, and in a word, whatever is not of our own doing. This distinction is crucial. The Stoics taught that peace of mind comes from focusing our energy on what we can control, primarily our own judgments, decisions, and actions, while accepting what we cannot control. Second, virtue is the sole good. For Stoics, living virtuously means living according to nature and reason. They identified four cardinal virtues: wisdom, understanding how to act and feel appropriately; courage, doing the right thing, even when frightening; justice, treating others with fairness and kindness; temperance, exercising moderation and self-discipline. Everything else, wealth, health, reputation, even life itself, was considered indifferent, though some indifferents were preferred over others. This doesn't mean these things don't matter at all, but rather that they shouldn't be the measure of our happiness or self-worth. Third, cosmopolitanism. The Stoics viewed all human beings as citizens of a single world community. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "My city and country, so far as I am Antoninus, is Rome, but so far as I am a man, it is the world." This perspective fostered a sense of duty toward humanity and an emphasis on treating all people with justice and kindness. Now let's clear up some common misconceptions about Stoicism. Misconception number 1. Stoicism means suppressing emotions. Perhaps the biggest misunderstanding about Stoicism is that it teaches us to be stoic in the lowercase sense, emotionless, cold, or indifferent. This couldn't be further from the truth. The Stoics weren't against emotions. They were against destructive emotions that result from errors in judgment. They distinguish between different types of feelings: propathei, which are initial, involuntary emotional reactions; path, which are full-blown, destructive emotions based on false judgments; and eupathei, which are good feelings that align with virtue and reason. For example, if someone insults you, you might initially feel a flash of anger. That's natural and not something a Stoic would try to eliminate. What matters is what happens next. Do you dwell on the insult, let it ruin your day, and plot revenge? Or do you examine your response, recognize the insult says more about the other person than it does about you, and choose not to let it disturb your peace of mind? As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Misconception number 2. Stoicism is passive resignation. Another common misconception is that Stoicism teaches passive acceptance of circumstances, that we should simply endure hardship without trying to improve our situation. In reality, Stoicism is about active acceptance of current reality while working to change what can be changed. Stoics don't say give up. They say accept what is happening right now. Don't waste energy fighting reality, and then take appropriate action. When faced with a challenge, a Stoic asks, what aspects of this situation are under my control? And then focuses energy there. This is far from passive. It's strategic and empowering. Misconception number 3. Stoicism is outdated or too extreme. Some critics argue that Stoicism's ancient origins make it irrelevant to modern life, or that its principles are too harsh and demanding. While it's true that some aspects of ancient Stoic physics and metaphysics have been superseded by modern science, the core ethical teachings remain powerfully relevant. And while classic Stoic texts sometimes express ideas in absolute terms, modern practitioners understand that Stoicism is aspirational. We aim toward the ideal while acknowledging our human limitations. Many people today, from business leaders to therapists to ordinary individuals seeking balance in hectic lives, find immense value in Stoic principles. In fact, Stoicism heavily influenced cognitive behavioral therapy, one of the most effective modern therapeutic approaches. So how might Stoicism look in practice? Let's consider a few everyday scenarios. At work, imagine your colleague takes credit for your idea during a meeting. Non-Stoic reactions might include seething with anger, confronting them publicly, or complaining to everyone who will listen. A Stoic approach would recognize that your colleague's behavior is outside your control, but your response is within your control. You might calmly address the situation in private, focus on producing more good work, or simply recognize that your worth isn't determined by others' recognition. In relationships, when a relationship ends, it's natural to feel grief. A Stoic wouldn't suppress this feeling, but would examine it. They might ask, what exactly am I upset about? Am I grieving the actual relationship, or my idea of what it should have been? What aspects of this situation can I control? This reflection helps process emotions healthily, rather than being consumed by them. With personal setbacks, let's say you lose your job. Rather than viewing this as an unmitigated disaster, a Stoic might see it as a dispreferred indifferent, not ideal, but not a reflection of your character or worth. They would focus on what's within their control, updating their resume, networking, building new skills, and maintaining their integrity throughout the process. In each case, Stoicism offers not emotional suppression, but emotional intelligence, the ability to understand and work with our feelings, rather than being controlled by them. What's particularly fascinating is how Stoicism has experienced a significant resurgence in recent years. Books like Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way and The Daily Stoic, William Irvine's A Guide to the Good Life, and Massimo Pigliucci's How to Be a Stoic have introduced these ancient ideas to new generations. Communities have formed online and in person. Events like Stoicon bring together practitioners from around the world, and people from all walks of life, from entrepreneurs and athletes to military personnel and artists, have found value in these principles. Why this renewed interest? Perhaps because modern life, with its constant connectivity, information overload, and emphasis on external validation, has created new forms of anxiety and distraction. Stoicism offers a counterbalance, a focus on what truly matters, on what we can control, and on developing inner strength rather than chasing external markers of success. As we wrap up today's introduction, I want to emphasize that Stoicism isn't about perfection. Even Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome and perhaps the most famous Stoic, wrote his meditations largely as reminders to himself. He was still practicing, still working on living up to these principles. The goal isn't to become an emotionless sage overnight, but to gradually align our perceptions, judgments, and actions with nature and reason. It's a lifelong practice. In future episodes, we'll explore specific Stoic concepts in greater depth and look at how they can be applied to common challenges. We'll learn practical exercises drawn from Stoic tradition and adapted for modern life. For now, I invite you to try one simple practice: the dichotomy of control. Tonight, take 5 minutes to reflect on your day. Make 2 lists: things that happened that were within your control and things that happened that were outside your control. Consider how much mental energy you spend on each category and whether that allocation served you well. Thank you for joining me for this introduction to Stoicism. If you found it valuable, please subscribe to Everyday Stoicism, leave a comment, and share with friends who might benefit from these ancient yet timeless ideas. Until next time, remember the words of Epictetus: make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens.